Hey guys, welcome to American Cycle Sport. This is part of our Speed Lab series on our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. Today what we're going to talk about is custom mountain bike frames from BS Bikes. This whole thing started here when we had a young lady by the name of Lisa come in and she wanted a Bianchi mountain bike. This lady bleeds Bianchi. If I'm not mistaken, I think she's even got the head tube crest tattooed on the back of her neck. So she has a number of Bianchi road bikes but wanted a Bianchi mountain bike. So I contacted the guys over at Bianchi, and they don't sell them here in the U.S. at the moment. So they're refocusing on their road stuff, although they do make some killer mountain bikes. So with their blessing, I contacted the guys over at BS Bikes, and I told Lisa, I said, hey, let's just make you one. So she wanted something kind of old school. So what we did was we pulled out some of the old Bianchi catalogs. I have them going back, into the 60s or 50s, stuff like that. We found some of their old steel mountain bikes. And we checked out some of the features on them in terms of the aesthetic and things like that. And then we contacted the guys over at BS Bikes, and we started the process. So first part of the process was get on the computer. I got the CAD design program up, and I designed her a frame that had all the features that she was looking for. She had certain specifications or certain requirements she wanted. She wanted it to be light. She wanted it to be maintenance-free as much as possible. She just wanted to ride it, but she wanted it to be absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. You know, it's got to shift every time. Everything's got to work, and it's got to ride incredible, period. Who wants to ride a bike that, rides like poop? So anyhow, we contacted BS Bikes. I drew up plans. I emailed them over to Bruce at BS Bikes. He refined it, did a little touch-up. We went back and forth 2 or 3 times. On everything from tubing choice to tubing diameter to wall thickness to chainstay length to seat tube, head tube angle, just absolutely everything, all the way down to where we wanted the water bottles mounted to the millimeter. I mean, all the stuff that goes into a custom frame. So this is a full 110% custom bicycle. You get to pick out everything when you do stuff from BS Bikes. So these guys are incredible. So what we chose to go with was, to fit Lisa's needs, is a 650B 27.5 wheel, because she liked the concept of the 29er. She was a little bit too tall and was worried about standover height, so we did a custom 650B. After back and forth and a lot of different exchange in emails and such, and a little bit of wait time, not much actually, about 8 weeks, here we have it. We have Lisa's custom 650B Faux Bianchi mountain bike. So let me go over some of this, some of the issues or some of the features on this bike. This bike's made by BS Bikes in Upland, California. You can find them on their Facebook page. Just type in BS Bikes, check them out. The neat thing about getting a bike made by BS is that you get a Facebook photo album of everything that goes into making your bike. It shows everything from your tubing laying there in a box to it being cut and mitered and all the machine work being done as it's all fitted together. And as your bike grows, from literally, they start with a chainstay, and as your bike grows into a complete frame, you've got this entire photographic, album, so to speak, of your bike being made all the way through paint. So you can actually watch your bike being made. What we did here was we went with 650B design. So what we were able to do in some of this is do things like eliminate the chainstay or the seat stay bridge, allow for more clearance. Those two were there to originally to help prevent the frame from flexing with the cantilever brakes, but now we have disc brakes, so we don't have to worry about that. The whole frame is made out of True Temper OX Platinum tubing, which is the highest grade chromoly that True Temper makes. We choose True Temper because there's just really nothing out there that rides like it. It's the bottom line. Dedichai, Reynolds, I mean, all those companies make great tube sets, but absolutely nothing compares to True Temper. When you actually get on the bike and ride, it's just amazing. Have to experience it yourself. So what we did is we started off with some old catalogs. We went back. We found the era like in the 90s, mid-90s, early 90s, where they were doing some mountain bikes. And we modeled it aesthetically in terms of top tube cable routing, things like that. We could have chosen a number of different things, but we wanted it to look like a Bianchi from that era. But it does have some modern features. We have disc brakes, so we have some different mounts to accommodate the disc brakes. We're going to go with a full shifter housing from here back to the rear derailleur. Let's see here. Other features. BS Bikes makes their own seat clamps. They even do their own seat clamps because one, it was actually cheaper to do it here, and two, they could have other features made like better fit and gives you a little bit more space here so you don't have to over tighten. These things don't bottom down on each other. So absolutely beautiful bike. We were able to color match some of the older Bianchi colors. If you look here, let me show you here. See the new Bianchi color? It's a little more blue. Some of the older ones, a little more green. So I was able to do that. During the process, Bruce over at BS Bikes even sent out color chips. So I was able to pick the color, and then he sent out color chips with the clear coat on it. So you can even see there. And the one we chose was the Ultra Blue Twilight over the China Mist. China Mist is the name of the color that we used from the powder coat manufacturer, which is prismatic, just in case you're doing a little powder coating of your own. And we chose this clear coat. Now this clear coat, you can't see it here, but it actually has a micro flake, a pearl blue micro flake, and it's almost a navy blue. It's quite blue. So, but it only shows up in direct sunlight. So the bike's going to be stunning. So, anyhow, there we go. That's our 650 frame. One of the things I was absolutely stunned about was the weight. Check this out. This is a chrome moly 650B frame. Whoop, there we go. If I drop it, that'll be my butt, won't it? And where are we at there? Oh wait, let's see here. And let's see what happens if we, there we go. 3 pounds, 9 ounces. That is a very light frame, extremely light frame. That's actually as light as some of the highest end aluminum frames, and even lighter than some of the entry-level carbon frames. So that's going to be a light bike. So parts. Next step was to choose out the parts. She had a certain standard of ride quality, but she wanted to stay within a certain budget. So my task was to figure out a way to build this custom bike that has all the performance features that she wants and stays within the budget that she needs. So what we chose to go with, let's just start off with the wheels. Cool. We went with the Stans ZTRs, Crest wheel set. These things are crazy, crazy light. I mean road bike light. This whole setup really blew my mind after I mounted the tires. In terms of tires, we went with Ritchie's brand new for 2013. They're WCS Shields, 650 by 52s. So they're a solid 2.1. Good tire with an excellent tread. Look at that. That's the newest incarnation of their vector force analysis tread. Good stuff. As Tom Ritchie put it, vector force analysis works because the dirt ain't changed. So anyhow, that's our wheel set. We decided to couple that with Ritchie's new carbon monocoque rigid 650B fork. Everything on this thing is carbon. Check that out. Carbon dropouts, carbon brake mounts, beautifully sculpted, just gorgeous monocoque style fork crown all the way to the steer tube. Little aluminum insert there to keep things all tidy. So gorgeous fork. Can't wait to get this thing built. Holding that on, we went with, because full rigid, you can go with some really expensive headsets, but we had to stay within our budget, but keep the performance there. So we chose the new Token needle bearing headset, and they actually have these sealed needle bearings. That's it right there. Now the needle bearing, the reason the needle bearing works so well with the rigid is because instead of a ball bearing, it's exactly that. It's a needle. They're little bitty tiny rods, and they're all around the bearing race. And because they're rods, you can't pit them. So with the impact of full rigid forks, can't pit the headset. So holds up really well. Now parts. We had to keep the performance intact, but give her good reliability and stay within budget. So for that, there's really no better group out there than Shimano's SLX. So we went with a nice little 2x9 crankset. You get 24mm spindle technology, excellent chain rings that shift perfect every time. It's all hollow tech. It's their hollow tech technology. It's the bottom line. They're light. They shift great. And this stuff is actually pretty impressive. You get the outboard bearing technology that goes with it. Oh, here we go. There's that. Everybody knows how well those work. Does the job. SLX derailleur. These things actually work better and are lighter than the stuff I used when I was racing for a living. So, you know, and this is a nice shadow derailleur, so it works out real well. We got matching shifter pods, of course. Dual pull, low clamp, top swing. That's just easy breezy right there. That thing will last a decade. Wanted to keep the brakes simple for her. She was a little nervous about the hydraulic, and we want to stay in budget. So really, there's no other choice than BV7s. Avid BV7s, just the best cable actuated disc brake ever made. And to this day, it's still better than some of the hydraulics out there. So those will do the job nicely. Very cool. A lot of this stuff is going to be a piece of cake to install because when you get your BS bike, they come completely faced, ready to go. Ready to go. That just cuts down on my work. So that means that this bottom bracket is perfectly square. The edges are nice and smooth. Same with the headset. We just press it in. Bada bing, we're out of there. So, excellent. Another little thing about the BS bikes is they're a company out of, like I said, Southern California. It was founded by two guys, Bruce and Steve. And their main complaint, these guys have been in the bike industry, or been around the bike industry since the 70s. Their main complaint was the fact that these handmade high-end frames were getting out of hand price-wise. There's just no reason for these guys to be charging $2,000 and $3,000 for these handmade frames. And now when you look at some of the sculpting and some of the artistry and artisanship that goes into them, no wonder you have to charge, you know, or in my opinion, overcharge for that, because you put, you know, 250 hours into the seat lug, you know, machining the seat lug. So anyhow, these things are built to be hammers. They're light, but they're built to be ridden. This thing is a hammer. And but what they do is they do one thing that no one else does, and that is when all their bikes are put together, they're put in a jig that holds all the tubes in place while they weld it. Now, conventional, I'd say frame builders, they tack them together in the jig. The jig holds everything in place. They tack them together, and they set them down on a table, and then they get around them and they weld, finish welding and all the other, you know, they get around and in all the little hard-to-get spots. Well, what BS Bike did was they built a different jig. So they took a conventional jig and they extended it out. So most jigs, you know, they could be 10 inches deep or something. These things, the one at BS Bikes is like twice as deep. So all the tubing is held in place in the jig in its perfect position. Then the bike is welded in its entirety in place in the jig. And then it's not taken out until it's room temperature. Now, the problem with doing it on the table is after you weld it, you add the heat because of the welding, and then the frames have to be realigned. And they're not always perfect. Well, these come out of the jig perfect every time. These things are the straightest frames I've ever seen in my life. You put a wheel in there, and it's perfect every time. You build the bike, and the wheels are perfectly in line, and it really, really shows once you throw your leg over it and you start riding. So anyhow, this is BS Bikes 650B. This is Lisa's Faux Bianchi, and we're going to get to building it, and it should be a blast. Stay tuned.